Welcome to the Debunkers podcast.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into some pretty fascinating new research about the Y chromosome.
Right, the one often just thought of in terms of biological males. And, well, the old ideas are really getting shaken up.
Exactly. We've looked through some recent scientific articles trying to get the updated picture for you.
Yeah, because for a long time, the Y chromosome was, frankly, kind of dismissed by a lot of scientists, seen almost as a genetic wasteland.
The wasteland. That sounds pretty bleak.
The thinking was basically it just flips the switch for male development and maybe wasn't doing much else. There was even serious talk about potentially disappearing over evolutionary time.
Okay, so a disappearing wasteland. That's quite the starting point. Our mission here, then, is to really unpack what these new sources are telling us.
What's it actually doing?
Right. Is that disappearing idea still relevant? What about male reproduction still key? And maybe crucially, how do its biological roles connect, or maybe not connect, to social ideas about masculinity?
Let's get into it. And what's really striking is how the latest sequencing data just blows that old wasteland idea out of the water.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's smaller than the X chromosome, fewer genes. For sure, the male-specific bit has maybe 27 distinct protein-coding genes. But the sources are clear.
Oh.
These aren't just, spare parts.
So it's doing more than just triggering testes development. What else have we learned?
That's the really big shift. Many of these Y chromosome genes are, get this, ubiquitously expressed.
Ubiquitously, meaning everywhere.
Pretty much. Active, making proteins in tissues all over the body, not just locked away in the testes.
Wait, like where specifically? Give us some examples.
Sure. The research shows expression in the brain, liver, kidney, stomach, lungs, you name it. This totally changes the game from just sex determination and fertility.
Wow. And you mentioned this might even connect to health implications for people with a Y chromosome.
This is where it gets really interesting, according to these studies. They're now linking specific Y genes and even whole Y chromosome family lines or lineages to how the immune system works.
Immune system? How so?
Well, influencing inflammatory responses. And that can translate directly to different levels of susceptibility to certain diseases, especially immune-related ones.
Can you give us a concrete example from the sources, something specific?
Absolutely. There's a strong one involving a common European Y lineage, haplogroup I. It seems associated with a higher risk of coronary artery disease.
Okay, wow. And why? What's the proposed link?
The studies suggest it might be down to how that specific Y lineage affects inflammation, maybe even dialing back adaptive immunity somewhat.
Is there a specific gene they're looking at?
The U2Y gene comes up a lot. It's highlighted as a really promising candidate behind these links between Y variations and susceptibility to things like that cardiovascular risk, getting quite detailed.
Okay, so the Y is active all over, influences health risks. But what about the basics? Is it still absolutely essential for male reproduction?
Oh, absolutely. No question. Despite all these other roles, it's still got those critical genes for making sperm.
Right.
The sources definitely point out that, deletions on the Y chromosome are a known cause of serious fertility problems, like azoospermia, basically. No sperm production at all. So, yeah, vital for that.
Okay, good to confirm. And what about that old fear, the one you mentioned right at the start, that the Y is just going to shrink away and vanish? Should people be worried?
Well, based on this evidence, the idea of it disappearing anytime soon seems pretty unlikely. It's true it has shrunk over millions of years compared to the X,
Good.
but there's strong evidence that natural selection is actively preserving the important genes it still has. They're conserved because they're needed for male health and fertility. It's not really seen as a doomed chromosome anymore.
Okay, that's a relief for some, I'm sure. So definitely not a wasteland. It's crucial for fertility, affects wider health, isn't disappearing. Let's tackle that other big question you might be thinking about. This connection, or lack thereof, between these biological traits and this social idea of masculinity.
Yeah, this is a really important distinction that the science helps clarify. The traits the Y chromosome actually confers, based on this research, are specific biological functions.
Like sex determination, fertility.
Exactly. Influencing immune responses, disease risks, like that heart disease example. These are biological mechanisms.
Hardwired processes.
Right. And these biological functions are fundamentally different from masculinity as a social concept, which is complex, learned, culturally influenced.
So the science isn't finding genes for, behaving in a certain masculine way?
No, not at all. The science is about genes involved in biology, in health, in physiological functions. It's not mapping onto social behavior norms or how someone expresses their gender identity in society. The Y provides biological characteristics, yes, but not a social script.
Got it. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive for you, the picture of the Y chromosome has changed dramatically. It's definitely not a genetic wasteland heading for the exit.
Far from it. It holds key genes for sex and fertility, sure, but also influences things like your immune system, disease risk. Remember that haplogroup I and UTY linked to heart issues?
It's essential for male reproduction, selection seems to be keeping it around, and crucially, its biological effects are distinct from social concepts of masculinity.
Exactly. Biology versus social construct.
What's really fascinating, I think, is seeing our understanding evolve like this, from wasteland to, well, maybe a blueprint influencing men's health. It makes you think, how does this shifting genetic picture challenge maybe some broader assumptions we all hold about biological sex versus social identity? Something to ponder.
But sadly, it seems we've run out of time for today.
Thank you so much for listening and for being such an engaged part of our podcast.
We always value your participation.
Until our next deep dive together.
Goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time.